Hello everybody and welcome to another new player guide. Today we're going to be talking about Kymani Jones, the security consultant. Kymani Jones as a... What do you think? Do you think, because I think the security consultant obviously is a bit tongue-in-cheek, right? But like, if they keep making characters, I'd love for them to get like more and more specific, you know? Like...
I mean, they've covered a lot of archetypes.
They've covered a lot of archetypes,
What else are you gonna...
Yeah, what else are you gonna do? But Kymani, actually, sorry, before I talk about Kymani themselves, this is a new player guide, so Travis built this deck with only the revised core set and the Scarlet Keys Investigator box from those pools. So we're not stepping outside of those cards for this video. If you want to look at see cards from other sets, we're gonna have an expanded guide for Kymani Jones eventually. But also you can ask in the comments and I will respond there, and Travis sometimes responds too. And also sometimes I see Bryn respond to comments, which always blows my mind when that happens.
Once out, blue moon.
Yeah. This is built without the taboo list in mind, so don't even worry about the taboo list. We're not going to be talking about that further beyond this. It's also rogue, so there's not many, tabooed cards that are worth mentioning. I mean, in the core set.
I mean, yeah, if you look at this deck, it's mostly Scarlet Keys cards.
Yeah. And also, one thing you might say is, as we get down further, Kymani has 5 additional experience that are not part of this starting deck. However, we're going to talk about it as we go through the deck itself, because there's customizable cards, but also as we get to the upgrades, what we're going to talk about for them.
Yeah, so I totally forgot about it, and then I was listening to your video about how you're like, when you're doing the Twitch thing about how hyped you guys were for the cards. Yeah. And you're like, come on, they start with 5 additional experience, and I was like, damn it!
Oh, that's great. So let me talk about Kymani. So Kymani has a 3/2/2/5 for their stats, which means, yes, a rogue investigator with not 1 or 2 brain. Wow.
It's not allowed.
Yeah, I hate that. It is different. We have 8/6 for the stats. As a lightning bolt, you can engage an exhausted enemy at your location. Now, why the hell would I want to do that? Well, number 1, you might want to attack aloof enemies, which you can't do unless you're engaged with them. Number 2... Number 2, as a reaction, when you attempt to evade an exhausted non-elite enemy, add your book to your skill value for this attempt. If you succeed by at least X, discard that enemy and X is that enemy's remaining health. So Kymani can just freaking neutralize things. At the point of us doing this video, none of us have played with Kymani, so we don't know if, like, where you want to shoot for this, like where you want to shoot your shot, like if you're just trying to go all in the rogue way, or if you're going to like have to also like put some damage on some enemies, or if you're like going to save it for just small enemies. I know someone in the comments said like it's really good at, like, there's a certain enemy called a mindless dancer, and they use Kymani's ability for that. So like it's particularly potentially possible to build around that. But at this point we don't have any physical experience with Kymani, so my gut says that this is less of something that you're going to be using as a tool to kill enemies directly, but rather it's like a button that you can press to kill something that needs to be killed, whether it be small or something that's in your way. I still think with Kymani, you can definitely flex in the rogue way, but I think also just being a clover that evades enemies and sometimes also kills an enemy is still a good way of handling it. Elder Sign effect is +1. If there's an exhausted enemy at your location, you automatically succeed instead.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a green evade Elder Sign.
Yep.
Yeah. Kymani's deck building options is Rogue 0/5, Tool 0/4, and Neutral 0/5. So we're gonna see some tools. Only 1 in this deck, but maybe some others as.
Not really.
Yeah.
Not too many.
And then you get the grappling hook and Agent Fletcher and 1 random basic weakness, and you get 5 additional experience at the start of the game. And the designers officially said why Kymani has 5 additional experience, and it's because it is part of the cycle. That's actually what it is. It's like they're part of our cycle for that 5 experience. Father Mateo, Parallel Roland, and then,
A Parallel Investigator is part of the cycle, huh?
Probably not. We'll probably see an actual Guardian one day that actually goes like... But I mean, like, that kind of makes sense. Just like, gives them something fun to start with. I think it's because they probably want some little help at the start, but... Grappling Hook is a 3-cost asset, takes up your hand slot. It commits for a book and a foot and a wild, and its actions performed using Grappling Hook do not provoke attacks of opportunity. As a double action, you can exhaust Grappling Hook, take up to 3 different basic actions from the following list in any order: engage, evade, investigate, or move. If you investigate, you use your book instead of your foot instead of your book. I think Grappling Hook is pretty fun. It's pretty neat. And it's just a cool card. I think it's cool.
So Kymani is like South American, right?
I'm not sure, actually.
So maybe that's the cycle with Father Mateo. Where it's South American investigators get 5 bonus experience.
I'd be down.
You know?
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind like just green investigators going forward getting 5 bonus experience.
Just
at the
each
beginning
printing from your
because,
own.
Green investigators
all the old ones, they're like, we're balancing this around Sharon Zobel. Nobody wants to play with Sharon Zobel. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. And then we have Agent Fletcher, which is a pretty soft basic signature weakness, sorry. 2/3/3, hits for 1 and 1. It's alert and has Hunter. Its prey is Kymani Jones only, and while Kymani Jones is evading Agent Fletcher, reduce their book value to 0. So you might be saying, why would I do that? Well, refer back to the reaction ability on Kymani Jones cards. So, like, it really only matters if you are, like, I think, like, playing by yourself. Like, solo, that's pretty annoying.
Yeah.
But, like, assuming you have, like, if you're not the only fighter, and even if you're the only fighter, you're probably also using a gun. But I think Agent Fletcher is a pretty manageable basic signature weakness.
you know?
For the newer players, Justin, what are the rules behind Prey Only?
There are so many.
Yes.
So Prey Only means that... So Prey matters very little until it does. Prey Only actually matters more than just Prey does. So Kymani Jones Only means that Agent Fletcher will only engage and hunt and like basically interact with only Kymani Jones.
Unless someone else chooses to engage them.
Yes. And because this guy doesn't have aloof, you actually can just kill him when he's at your location without having to engage him. He's just going to be hanging out.
It's kind of wild. Huh?
And you can just shoot him in the back of the head with a vicious blow. Yeah. Like, so that's why it's also like it's very interesting because, and why I say he's pretty soft, because like graveyard ghouls or like something else, like just like another weakness enemy, they might be a problem for like the Seeker. If this guy like walks into the Seeker's location, because then like Kymani can just evade him and just ignore him.
Yep.
And then like the C is not going to bother anybody else. Yeah. Okay. Let's go and start about the cards in the deck. Bryn, why don't you start us off, because I assume these are all green cards.
I mean, they look like they're mostly green cards.
Oh, 75%'s not bad.
Yeah. We got Leo DeLuca. He might be the only green card in the core set that's like actually really good.
He's also the only green level 0 ally available to Kymani.
This is, as far as I know, the truth, because I actually have no idea what kind of cards exist in the Scarlet Keys, because I don't read things.
I don't think there's any level 0 green
No, I don't think there is.
Nope.
There isn't.
Anyhow, he costs C6. He takes up your ally slot. He can soak 2 and 2, which is not a terrible place to be. But he lets you take an extra action on your turn to do anything you want, anything at all. Pay for part of a grappling hook activation, evade an exhausted enemy, extra investigation actions, whatever you like.
Yeah, I think Leo DeLuca's nice in Kymani beyond just like the whole, extra action, because Kymani's ability, if you're going to use it, is very action intensive, right? Like if assuming like you're not killing with it a 3 health enemy, you're actually, like if you do a 2 health enemy or less, you're effectively spending 2 actions to kill it, as if you were just swinging with a normal fight action.
Twice.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's also fairly solid here because Kymani's stat line kind of just lends you to doing whatever you have included cards in your deck to do.
Yeah.
It's a very polite way of talking about it.
So, like, extra actions can be used for any of those things. Doesn't matter what they are. We got pickpocketing. This one's a 2-costed talent illicit. Doesn't take up any slots, which is kind of cool. And as a reaction effect, after you evade an enemy, like, maybe your 5 foot suggests you might want to, you can exhaust it to draw a card. It's just another way to help eat into the inherent inefficiency of repeatedly evading enemies. This more or less makes it like you have chosen to draw a card instead.
Yeah.
But also the enemy doesn't play.
Yeah.
Like Agent Fletcher, maybe, he shows up and you're just like, okay, but instead of talking, I'm just going to draw a card for my first action every turn. How about that?
Yeah.
He's like, fine.
Okay. We got Backstab. It's a 3-costed event. It commits for some symbols, but probably don't unless you really need to. It's a fight action that uses foot instead of fist, which, refer you back up to the 5 is bigger than 2, or that's what they tell me.
Yeah, the alligator wants to eat the foot, not the fist on this card.
But the attack also does +2 damage, and a lot of enemies are kind of tough to kill because they give them 3 hit points, because most weapons deal +1 damage. But this will kill a lot of things in one shot, like maybe Agent Fletcher.
Yeah.
He's got 3 health.
He's got 3 health.
This does 3 damage. Seems like a pretty okay way to go about that. And then we got Emergency Cash. The worst thing you can do with your actions, unless you have no better choice, is to spend them gaining resources one by one. This does that much more efficiently.
Yeah.
So, and like also, you never want to not have enough resources to play your cards, because that is the thing that is worse than taking resources one at a time with your actions, is not being able to play your cards.
I'll take this one because there's guts.
It's your turn.
All right, so we got Sneak Attack. Sneak Attack is just deal 2 damage to an exhausted enemy at your location. It's testless damage. I mean, you have to test to evade the enemy, but luckily you're really good at that. Like, that's kind of what you're going to want to be doing with Kymani. So this is just a good way to deal the 2 damage and then potentially just make it even easier to kill. If it has like 5 health, you can bring it down to 3 and then probably succeed by at least the remaining health on that enemy.
Yeah, I think the sneak attacks, the backstabs are very important to this deck because they are your only way of dealing with elite enemies.
Yes, that is true, actually. Yeah, that's very true.
So maybe don't just, like, if you suspect there's an elite enemy that you need to kill in this scenario, don't just throw them in anything.
Yeah. We got Guts. Guts is good because your other stats, your fist and your book stat, are like your do something stat. In Kymani, your foot is also a do something stat. You're going to be using it actively to evade enemies, which leaves the brain as kind of just there hanging out. So this is where the Mythos deck comes in, and it's going to ask you quite often to test your brain or bad thing happen. This means that if you have something like Guts and you boost that up, bad thing will happen less, which means you will win more. Kymani also actually has 3 brain, which means that like you go to 5 with a Guts, which is a big number.
3 times as much as most.
Yes. Yeah. And then it also replaces itself if you're successful. Manual decks, it does the same thing, but for foot, which is good because you're going to be evading things. And you're going to be evading things twice because of Kymani's ability. And then we got Unexpected Courage, which doesn't replace itself, but is just, any 2 icons you want. All right, Scarlet Keys. You want me to read the multi-pocket tool for you?
I can do it. Okay. So we got our pocket multi-tool. This is the tool that we can
pocket multi-cool.
That we want to play outside of our color. There's a lightning bolt during a test you perform. You can exhaust to get +1 skill value for this test. You can upgrade it to have other investigators at your location be able to use the ability. You can upgrade it to give you +1 skill value during a skill test on a treachery. Or for 2 experience, it can give you +1 skill value during an attack, an evasion attempt, or an investigation, all of which are very real. Picking those puts you up to 4 fist or 4 book, which can be decent chip damage. Less action intensive if you're dealing with like a random cultist or whatever. And the evasion one is, of course, like very useful to you. For 3 experience, we can have after you fail a skill test, you can ready the pocket multi-tool. And for 4 experience, you can make the ability a reaction, which triggers when you would fail a skill test, so it functions like a lucky that you'll find in your core set. All these are pretty solid options. You can play tools 0 to 4, so you can tick up to 8 boxes on this.
Yeah.
The evasion one I think is a pretty solid choice.
Yeah.
The pry bar, the treachery one, also pretty solid choice. Give you like +1 or +2 or +2 for brain tests during the Mythos phase.
Yeah. Probably, so yeah, like this is it really kind of depends on what you're doing, but like I think so we should have our first stopping point here, because if we have 5 experience at the start, you could put it into this pocket multi-tool very easily without having to look at additional cards. I think for me, if I was going to stop here and look at just put 5 experience into this card, I would definitely do the evasion one, as Travis said. I would do pry bar for sure, because getting a Guts every Mythos phase potentially is very nice. And then I probably, depending on what I want to be doing, which is probably with this deck a bit more investigating, I'd probably grab the magnifying lens. This is assuming if I put all 5 into this one card.
Yeah, I can
Yeah.
see maybe putting a point into detachable as well,
Yeah.
and then just like leaving the other experience floating.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially if you take Briber. That can be helpful for them. As a general rule, I don't think that the Lucky Charm or the Spring Load upgrades are particularly what Kymani wants. Because, like, getting +2 when... So the action you're probably taking the most often, or like the action you care about most often, is like the evade one when you're trying to kill an enemy.
Yep.
And if you're failing that, this isn't gonna like help. So...
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think the spring-loaded option is like the worst option on this card for Kymani.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because even like if you just like with Kymani's stats and everything, you could just take off like the first like 8 boxes on the card: detachable, pry bar, sharpen knife, signal mirror, magnifying lens. To put all 8 into that, and you would be very happy with the card. Like you could do, you could still like you could be like Lucky's still good, spring loaded's still good. However, I think it has, to echo what these two are saying, it's like less good in Kymani.
For the pocket multi-tool as well, there are like a couple, if you're trying to build multiple of these guys at the same time, and one of the investigators has it, I think this one is not particularly important for Kymani, and it might fit better in like Daryl or Vincent or something like that.
Yeah.
And in that case, this could very easily just be like 2 flashlights.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Our next card we have here is Thieves' Kit. This is a 3-cost asset that comes with 6 supplies. As an action, you can spend 1 supply to investigate. You may use your foot instead of your book, and you probably should. If you succeed, you get a resource. So after 3 investigations, this will pay for itself. But mostly, you just get to investigate 5 instead of 2.
Yeah, speaking of flashlight.
Yeah. It's a very bread and butter card for Kymani, I think. I can see a lot of decks that are playing it. It's a tool and elicit an item, which will show up later when we're talking about friends in low places. It'd be very relevant. Yeah, just a good card. We have Disguise here, which is a pretty obvious Kymani plant. It's a 3-cost asset that has 4 supplies. As an action, you can spend a supply to evade, giving you +2 foot for this evasion attempt. If you succeed in the evade enemy is not elite, it does not raid during the next upkeep phase. So this has like multiple uses for you, where you can use the +2 to just like evade an enemy and forget about for a couple turns. You can also use the evasion ability on this and still trigger your reaction ability.
Yeah, because then you could do like a normal evade, and then do this for the second evade, because because then if you pass, the problem's gone, and if you don't, it's sleeping for a turn. It seems really good.
Yeah.
Can you believe that the art is actually Charlie Kane?
Yes, 100%.
Like, he's wearing a wig underneath his wig, so we won't even know it's him.
Yeah, I believe that, yeah.
It's wild.
Brian, why don't you keep this one going?
We got I'll Take That, which is a 0-costed trick upgrade elicit. It's fast. You can play it when you successfully evade a humanoid enemy, or you successfully investigate. You get to play an item asset from your hand, reducing its cost by X, where X is the amount you succeeded by. Attach I'll Take That to that asset. The attached asset gains elicit, which is not inherently a good thing, but it's not a bad thing either. At least at this point. Referring back to the front of the card, we have an ability that wants us to be succeeding by a bunch already.
Yeah.
During an evasion attempt. So, this is probably a pretty efficient way to get our assets into play, because it doesn't even cost. It helps to eat into that action cost of evading an enemy.
Is like that relic card, but not bad.
Yeah, it is. It's
Yeah, I mean, like, it's,
Unearth the Ancients.
Yeah.
you only play it once it's already happened. You don't have to throw it out there, make the test, and be like, nuts.
And this one's, I mean, like, even with Thieves' Kit too, right? Like, just in successfully investigating, succeeding by 3, or like, here's my pocket multi-tool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just seems like a good way to make that happen.
Yeah.
We've got Friends in Low Places. It's another 0-cost event. Favor. It's customizable. When you purchase Friends in Low Places, you choose and record a trait on your upgrade sheet. We'll get to that in a second. You look at the top 6 cards of your deck. For each looked at card with the chosen traits, you may spend 1 resource to add that card to your hand, shuffling the remaining cards back into your deck. So the customizable trait card here, like, we get to pick a trait. Could be anything, like probably tools though.
Yeah.
Item is very good.
Item
Yeah.
is very good.
No,
The
that's not a
licit is
trait.
also good. Yes, it is.
Yeah, but like, how cool do we feel when we pick item and we just get an item? That's not cool.
I mean, like, it's not about being cool. It's about functionality. You can't play.
I don't.
No, you gotta do
backpack, so-
Gambit. So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, it's a real.
Yeah, so it's an actual gambit. Yeah.
Probably not what you want to pick on that.
Anyway,
Probably,
yeah, you're gonna choose. You'll probably know, and if you don't, and you're playing this exact list, like, yeah, item could be really good.
Yeah, I think Trick also would be good because it has
Yeah.
backstab. And,
Illicit is good as
yeah,
well.
so going back
Illicit is
over.
illicit,
Yeah, Illicit's
disguise.
good. Yeah.
I think that the
Oh, that's a sneak attack. Oh, they're both tactics. Never mind. Trick is not good.
Yeah,
I take that back.
illicit is probably a solid choice.
yeah, Trick's like okay. I'll take that and the disguise kit.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, but like you also get illicit gets you the. I'll take that and the disguise kit too.
yeah, I bet quick getaway is also a trick.
Yeah.
But yeah, you should probably just pick like a list.
So like that's yeah. If you're playing exactly this list, it's probably not a bad choice. If you're playing different, like, you know, any sort of different pieces of this game, then obviously it's different.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
We got helpful. For one XP, we can add, when you play it, you may choose another investigator at your location to resolve its effects, which, if you're taking that, impacts the trait you want to pick, obviously, right?
Yes.
Like
Unless it's item.
if we want, yeah, unless it's item. But that's not cool.
Yeah.
throw
No,
that
because
one
then
out
it's a true Gambit.
Yeah,
When you.
so, like, you know, whatever. We got versatile for 2 boxes. You can choose another trait. When you play Friends in Low Places, you may choose one of the looked at cards with both of the chosen traits to add to your hand without spending the resource, which, I mean, that is pretty cool.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You feel like a boss whenever that happens to you.
Yeah. Like, and that's where like illicit and like item
Yeah.
would be good.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Now we got bolstering. Each card added to your hand by Friends in Low Places gains a wild icon until the end of the phase. I'm not entirely certain why that's an option, but
It's for the
There
it's for
we
the
go.
it's for the skill deck.
They need to fill out the cards
Yeah.
somehow.
yeah, there does have to be more than like 2 options. I'll give you that. But you can definitely use this one if you choose like illicit or favor or something to just grab cards and throw them at your tests this turn.
Yeah.
That is an option. We got clever for 2 boxes. Instead of shuffling the remaining cards into your deck, you may place each of them on the top of your deck in any order, which is a very weird choice for Fantasy Flight. They don't usually let us do
No,
that.
they
I
don't.
don't like that.
However, this also has like a huge amount of griefing potential, where you can take helpful to look at somebody else's deck and then just stack it poorly for them.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do that. They won't be, you know. Presumably, you're playing this game with your friends.
Yeah.
Choose illicit. Look at someone
Yeah.
else's deck. No illicit traits. Be angry.
Um,
Put their high experience cards
Yeah.
in the bottom.
I think that one's not particularly good for this list, but there are ways to make it good.
Yeah.
We got prompt. Friends in Low Places gains fast and play during any lightning bolt window, which is, I think, where bolstering really starts to kind of get
Yes.
good.
Yeah.
Is where you're just like, so maybe I'm going to get 3 unexpected courages off this for like, you know, 2-ish money maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But obviously, not spending actions is a good thing. We're already spending a jillion of them trying to run away from stuff or
Yeah.
something. So,
Yeah.
like, less actions, more better. We got experience for 3. You can increase the number of cards looked at by 3. I think that depends. Like, what are you using the card for? This one's a little tough to talk about because it is so versatile in
Yeah.
what it can do. But if you're playing this to look for a specific card, obviously experienced is probably the way to go.
Yeah, especially if you're like, if you're doing the versatile on that, like
Yeah.
experience is like obvious there, the next step. I love this card.
It does so many, it can do so many things. And
Yeah.
then lastly here, we got Swift. You may play, for 3 boxes, you can play one of the cards added to your hand by paying its cost, because, you know, we're not complete animals here.
Yeah.
But that, if you have that and prompt,
Yeah, it's really nice.
then that's a lot of action efficiency jammed into a single card.
yeah.
Particularly if we're using it to play, like, I don't know, maybe our Thieves Kit or our
Yeah.
Pocket Multi-Cool.
Yeah. Well, if would you put any experience in this of our 5 just because we don't have it and I feel like we should
Yeah,
talk about it? What would you
could.
do?
I would choose the item trait or the illicit trait. Probably item though. Depending on how much I intend to invest into the
That's
pocket
boring.
multi-cool.
Yeah,
And then I would put my 5 experience into experienced and probably just prompt.
Yeah, I think that's what I would go
And try and
first,
dig out especially if I want to dig out the grappling hook.
Yeah.
Which is really the reason this is here.
I think also prompt and swift could be nice because then your things like it costs 1 more resource, but you can just get it going and pay back right away with the thieves kit. I think there's a lot of options there. What about you, Bryn? Would you put any experience into this? Off the get-go, not just generally.
Yeah, I mean, like...
No, I don't think I'd ever upgrade this card.
Yeah, I don't think this card's very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's a lot of stuff you can do with this card. And I think playing this deck, like, I probably do want to find one of my items right away.
Yeah.
And I imagine playing the game with the grappling hook is a whole different beast than playing the game without it.
Yeah, definitely.
So, like, maybe I just want to be able to look at the top 6 cards of my deck and then be like, these are all trash.
But then clever put them back in the order that you want.
Yeah, put them back and be like, I'm not getting grappling hook for 6 turns.
Yeah.
Bad news, guys.
Yeah, it's your pun. You're like,
Yeah, no, I think the play during any lightning bolt window is the strong option here. After that, could do whatever really.
Yeah.
I think like that one in Swift, if I was dumping all 5, are probably what I would do, just so that I can try to start the game with the grappling hook in play. If admittedly no money.
Yeah.
But,
yeah.
I think experience personally is the best tick here, because you get to for each. It does depend a little bit on what you have in your deck, but like. So
9 is better than 6.
You get to you can draw
better than
multiple
6.
cards with this, right? It's not prepared for the worst. You can look at it, take each of the items if you want. So looking at the more like of the card of the trait, in this case item, the more items you have in your deck, then like the better experience gets.
Yeah, that's very
Whereas
fair.
if you're using, it's also very strong to look for like a particular card because you just have more chances of seeing it.
Yeah,
this is
definitely.
going to be super hype and Bob once they taboo scavenging.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's our last card here?
We got Kicking the Hornet's Nest, which unfortunately does not depict an actual hornet's nest.
Yeah.
But for 0, you can search the top 9 cards of the encounter deck for a non-elite enemy and spawn it engaged with you instead of its normal spawn location. Then discover a clue at your location and gain X resources, where X is that enemy's health value. Then shuffle the encounter deck. It's just kind of a neat option for emergency cash, really.
Yeah.
Like we're playing this to get money, but also we just get to take a clue without having to use our 2 book to investigate. And
then we
enemies can't be that bad, right?
And then we evade the enemy, and then we just kill it.
Whatever.
With our text box. Seems sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a cool card. Travis, think you can handle this card?
Yeah. I think I got this one. It's quick getaway. It's 2 to play. Commits for 2 feet. Fast. You play when an enemy attacks you, and you get to evade. Attempt to evade the attacking enemy. If you succeed, cancel that enemy's attack. How does the enemy attacking in the enemy phase work?
What do you mean?
Can you play this when an enemy attacks you and they exhaust to kill them?
Oh. I guess that's something I can't answer without going into the rule book. But I see when you know what, I'm gonna go look.
Okay.
If I'm not back, because I'm going to that closet. That's how you go to the next slide.
Okay. So this does a lot of nice things for Kymani. Mostly commit. Like the card itself is not super great, but the fact that it commits for 2 feet and that is your do something stat is very good, because if you don't need the niche effect, then you can just throw it whatever foot test you happen to have laying around. It is like a dodge that costs 2 more, and
a test.
And a test, yeah, which is tough. It is an evade action though. You have some stuff that cares about that, and paying 2 to evade the enemy is not super great, but you can get some other value out of it, with the pickpocketing. Yeah.
Okay, so upon completion of dealing that attack, dealing the attack, exhaust the enemy. So
okay.
Yeah, that's a shame.
It is.
Yeah, so don't play this one during the enemy phase.
Yeah.
No.
Unless you really need to not get hit.
Yeah. It's still a solid option for that.
Yeah, it's still just like a dodge. That's just a little bit bad.
Yeah, because they do like immediately ready and the regroup phase, whatever the last one is.
Yeah.
Whatever that's called. Upkeep? Is that it?
Yeah, because it's you can't play during any lightning bolt windows. So yeah, it's just when an enemy attacks you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that would have been sick though. I've been like.
Upgrade cards.
Travis cracked that nut. All right, core set. We got cat burglar, cat bug for cost. You get +1 foot. You can exhaust cat bug, disengage from each enemy engage with you, and move to a connecting location. This act does not provoke attacks of opportunity. That is a nice ability on the bottom half, but even just like +1 foot, Kymani likes that. Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out that the green allies are almost non-existent.
Yeah.
So
even in the Scarlet Keys box, the only one is Trigger Man.
yeah.
Yeah, which
It's
Kymani
not
doesn't
really
really need.
Yeah, I think it's actually really funny that in the core set that blue and yellow get their 4 cost allies that give plus to their stat, and green has pain experience for theirs.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because they suck.
They were like, this foot is prime. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's good shit. We have Sure Gamble, which after you reveal a chaos token with a negative modifier, you switch that token's negative to a plus. This is really good with Kymani's ability.
Yeah.
Like, this is what you can use to kill big, non-elite enemies. Yeah, very good there. Then we got Lockpicks, which is actually not super impressive in
This is in the
Kymani.
core set now?
Yeah, it is.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, I know, eh? But it's not like super impressive in Kymani, but it's still a tool that you can dig up. It's also illicit. It's also an item. So if you go back to our friends in low places conversation, this hits like all those boxes. And it's still, you get investigate at 7 if you have any sort of foot buff, like a cat bug or something else. It becomes 8, which is a really good number. Yeah.
It is pretty much just the flashlight on roids.
Yes. Yeah.
So would you guys buy any of these upgrades with your 5-star experience?
I wouldn't.
I would.
Which
I
one?
would buy lockpicks for sure.
I could definitely see myself cutting the pocket multi-tools for lockpicks and cutting Leos for like cat bugs.
Yeah, that's fair.
And cat bug does a lot more for the deck than Leo does in general, especially with how expensive Leo
I
is.
would never cut Leo.
Not even for upgraded Leo. He's not even upgraded Leo ain't even here.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean,
I mean, it's only, it's just one guy.
We've just been friends for too long. I like
Yeah.
that kind of betrayal.
Yeah.
when's the last time you played Leo?
He's busy with his own projects.
Was he? Was it in your Wendy? Oh, that was Pete in your Wendy deck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the case for lockpicks, but I would probably pick up the. I don't know. We'll see what else we got. We got some other stuff here because we're gonna go into our Scarlet Keys cuff. We got Thieves Kit, the upgraded version. It's 6 supplies still, and you get +1 skill value. And if you succeed by 2 or more, you get 2 resources. Lots of money, lots of cash. Old Keyring, upgraded version. It's a tool. Kymani can play it. Your location gets -2 shroud, and if you succeed, remove 1 key. It has 3 keys, and if the test difficulty is 0, you discover an additional clue. Flashlight, the upgraded version. It's when you perform a skill test while investigating or attempting to evade. You get a spend a supply. It gets -2 difficulty.
Upgraded flashlight, I think, is in like every this year's guide.
It's a really good
it's
card.
So good for everybody.
Yeah, it's a really good card. So it's obviously like it has the synergy with the same kind of thing with Old Keyring, where you can now like with the 2 and out, you can put a 4 shroud location to 0 and get an additional clue. But it also has the evade, which is quietly very powerful in Kymani because you can use it on the ability on their card.
It's like 2 vicious blows.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we got
4 times.
Then we got Breaking and Entering, the upgraded version, which is just absolutely gorgeous. If you succeed by 3 or more, you get to return it to your hand at the end of your turn. If you succeed by 1 or more, you get to evade an enemy at this location. I forgot that this is not I was in the expanded guide mode where I was just doing the super shorthand of the card.
Yeah.
But you also get a investigate, adding your foot to your book value, and if you it's all that thing that I just said earlier. So you get to get clues and evade enemies, and then if you succeed by 3 or more, you get to return it to your hand.
Yeah, I like to imagine that this guy, like, he's been really careful and they've gotten into the house without breaking anything, and she's like, it's called breaking and entering.
Yeah, and she just smashes the
It's
lamp.
like smashing a lamp.
Yeah. Any of these would you consider putting in?
If I really wanted to play Breaking and Entering in my deck, I would. I don't think upgraded Breaking and Entering is like super good for
Kymani?
Kymani.
Yeah.
with a wire collection, I would just play the level 0 one, because I don't think you're succeeding by 3 or more all that often, considering that you're only getting +2 from your book.
Yeah.
That being said, it's like fine, and I probably wouldn't upgrade any of the other ones, because Thieves Kit is, I think that the upgraded Thieves Kit's a luxury pickup, and I think Old Keyring and Flashlight are both very powerful, but it would bother me to add them to my deck and then like not have the other one.
That's fair.
I can see myself adding like maybe the level 3 Flashlight, I guess,
Yeah.
and then like just banking the 2 experience to grab the other one if that was the plan I was on, but...
Yeah. I would do, I mean, I think Old Keyring and Flashlight are what I'm interested in here more. Old Keyring is really good, and it's even better when you're in the first few scenarios where there's a lot of 2 shroud locations that you can really
That's fair.
cheese.
How about you, Bryn?
Breaking and entering is a hell of a drug.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, obviously you can't if you don't own the cycle it's from.
Yeah.
Play the level 0 one, but this one, like, it's a really good card.
I mean, like, if you're doing Cat Bug, one of Breaking and Entering could be
Yeah.
really good with that.
Yep.
Yeah. We got Dirty Fighting, which is also every time I see this card,
So
it gets
high.
better. So it's a 3-cost 2 experience. It's a talent, a trick, and illicit. Limit 1 per investigator while attacking, parlay, or attempting to evade an exhausted enemy. You get +2 skill value always if they're evaded always. And then after you evade an enemy, exhaust Dirty Fighting, take a fight action against that enemy. Ignore the aloof keyword for this attack. Before I even get to Clean Sneak, I think this is a great thing to spend also your experience on.
Yep.
Because it helps so much with your ability, like just a lot.
Yeah, I feel pretty happy like putting these in for 4 experience and then like upgrade my friends in low places to grab either talents or illicits.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably illicit because that also
Yeah.
is pickpocketing, I guess.
Yeah.
Illicit hits like a lot of cards in this deck.
Yes. Yeah. And then we got Clean Sneak, a 0-cost 4 experience card. Fast play only during your turn. For each exhausted non-swarm enemy at your location, choose a different option. Gain 2 resources, deal 2 damage to that enemy. Discover one clue location, draw 1 card. That card does a lot of things. I'm not sold on Clean Sneak, but I'm going to try to give it the best pitch that I can here. It's, it's a fast sneak attack. That's nice. It does cost 4 experience, but also just like the versatility of it, especially if you're like have a lot of enemies and you've been locking things down, it can get very beneficial. But I would not put this in my level. I would not put this in my level 0 deck as part of my 5 experience.
I also wouldn't, but
Yeah.
what this card does do is it like breaks being in an evasion lock
Yes. Yeah.
very well.
Yeah. I would put this in my level 0 deck if like Travis and I were fighting,
Yeah.
because he would be so mad when I play in scenario 1.
Yeah.
It'd be so
And you
fun.
just draw a card.
With my
So
friends in low
funny.
places,
Yeah.
I have Gambit written on it.
It's a gambit. Let's go.
And you're like, I found Clean Sneak. Like, Brad.
I'll kill you.
That's Kymani.
Yeah.
I think Kymani. I'm curious to see how, as the community and how Bryn and I play with them, because I know Travis is never going to play Kymani. To see how it kind of evolves, because right now, like I don't really know exactly where Kymani fits for me in terms of the investigators, but I think green tools are very fun to play with, and I'm curious to see, especially. I can't say the word tools because my next sentence is, and then in addition with tools from every class, because the trait-based investigators are always interesting because they can open up more in the future. And I'm curious to see how that happens for Kymani. But that's this new player guide. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back for our next one, which is Vincent Lee, the Doctor, in a few days. So we'll see you then. If you are new to our channel, consider liking and subscribing, leaving a comment. All of that stuff helps us out. We make a new Arkham Horror video every day of the week. Yes, that's not a lie. That's not a lie. We do it. But thanks so much for watching. Have a good one, and as always, a GG's.